The twin suns burned over the alien desert, their lights spilling across endless dunes of red sand. In the middle of this harsh world walked a girl who did not belong. Her skin was pale, her eyes human, her steps slow and weak. Among the tall alien people who lived here, she was always different. They whispered, they mocked, and finally they cast her out. She carried nothing. No food, no water, only the clothes on her back and the pain in her heart. Every step away from the alien city felt heavier, like she was walking not just from walls of stone, but from every dream she once had. She had begged them to see her as one of their own, but they only saw a fragile human. To them, humanity was weakness. To them, her very blood was a curse. The desert wind blew hard, carrying sharp dust into her face. She lifted her hand to shield her eyes, but did not stop. If she stopped, she would fall. If she fell, she might never rise again. Her legs trembled, her lips cracked from thirst. She whispered to herself, voice shaking, "Just one more step, just one more." Hours passed. The alien city faded behind her, swallowed by the sandstorm rising at the horizon. The world grew quiet. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her mind grew numb. She thought of her parents, of nights when she had dreamed of stars and of belonging. Now, all she had was silence. At last, her strength gave way. Her knees hit the sand, and she fell forward. The burning ground pressed against her face. She wanted to rise, but her body no longer listened. Her eyes closed, and darkness swept over her. But fate had not forgotten her. The growl of an engine cut through the desert silence. A dust-covered jeep rolled over the dunes. Inside sat a man, broad-shouldered, armored in black tactical gear, a soldier of humanity. His eyes scanned the desert as the vehicle slowed. He had been sent here on patrol, a duty he thought was boring. Yet now he saw something unexpected, a small human figure, lying half-buried in sand. He stopped the jeep and jumped out, boots sinking into the dust. Kneeling beside her, he turned her over. She was alive, but only just. Her lips were dry, her breathing shallow. She looked like a ghost, yet something in her fragile face struck him. She was not just another stranger. She was someone left behind. He reached for his canteen, unscrewing the lid. Carefully, he poured a few drops of water on her lips. She stirred, her eyelids fluttering open. For the first time in days, she saw another human face. A face strong, steady, and kind. Her throat ached, but she managed to whisper, why would you help me?" The soldier gave a small smile. "Because you're human. That's enough." Tears burned in her eyes. No one had said those words to her before. To the aliens, she was always less. To him, she was enough. He lifted her gently, carrying her to the jeep. She was light as a feather, too weak to protest. In the back seat, he laid her down and covered her with his jacket. The engine roared to life, and the jeep rolled forward, leaving the endless desert behind. The girl closed her eyes again, but this time not in despair. For the first time since her exile, she felt safe. Yet, even as the vehicle sped toward the distant human outpost, danger grew. The aliens who had cast her out would not let her go so easily. They would call her a traitor. They would call him a fool. And soon, both of them would stand against something greater than exile. But in that moment, under the blazing suns, there was only one truth. She was not alone anymore. The jeep rolled across the desert, its tires carving deep trails in the hot sand. Inside, the girl rested weakly against the seat, her head turning slightly as she tried to stay awake. Every bump on the road reminded her body of how empty and fragile she was. Yet the steady hum of the engine and the calm presence of the soldier gave her a strange sense of peace. For the first time in years, she was not completely alone. The soldier glanced at her now and then, one hand on the steering wheel. His face was sharp, hardened by battles, yet there was softness in his eyes. He had seen many things in his service: ruins, wars, even betrayal. But something about this girl felt different. She was not just another survivor. She was someone who had been thrown away by those who should have protected her. At last, The jeep reached the edge of a small human outpost. It was not large, just a handful of metal huts, a few towers, and soldiers moving between them. Vehicles were parked in lines, weapons stood ready, and the air smelled of oil and dust. As the jeep rolled in, the guards looked at the soldier with curiosity, and their eyes quickly shifted to the pale, fragile figure in the back seat. A murmur spread among them, whispers that carried doubt and suspicion. "Who is she?" one soldier asked. "She's human," the man replied simply, his tone firm, leaving no room for argument. They did not press further, though their stares followed as he carried the girl inside one of the huts. The room was simple: metal walls, a small cot, and a table with medical supplies. He set her down gently and offered her more water, this time letting her drink slowly. She coughed at first, but her body soon accepted the relief. Her eyes studied him carefully. His strength, his scars, the tattoo on his arm that curled like black fire. He seemed like a warrior carved from stone, yet he treated her with surprising care. Why do you care?" she asked again, her voice small. The soldier leaned against the wall, crossing his arms. "Because I know what it means to be left behind. And because you're one of us. That's all that matters." His words struck deep. She lowered her gaze, memories flooding back. The way the aliens had looked at her with contempt, the harsh voices that called her weak, the cold eyes that turned away as they cast her out. She had begged them to let her stay, but they had chosen pride over compassion. And now, here was this man, a stranger, who gave her more kindness than her so-called family ever had. Days passed. She grew stronger under his watch. He brought her food, clean clothes, and sometimes silence, because he seemed to know when words were not needed. She told him small pieces of her story, how she had been raised among the aliens, always treated as an outsider, always reminded she was different. Her humanity was a stain they never forgave. The soldier listened but did not pity her. Instead, he nodded and said, "Their loss. Humanity is not weakness. It is strength." Those words felt like fire in her chest. No one had ever said that to her before. But the peace did not last. Whispers reached the outpost from alien cities nearby. The girl's exile had not gone unnoticed. Some said she had broken their laws. Others claimed she carried secrets too dangerous to be left with humans. Soon, a message came. The aliens demanded her return. The commander of the outpost summoned the soldier. "She is not our problem. We can't risk conflict for one girl. You will hand her over." The soldier's jaw tightened. He looked at the commander, then at the girl waiting in the corner of the room. She sat with her hands folded, fear hiding behind her eyes. She had nowhere left to run. In that moment, he faced a choice: his duty to his unit or his promise to himself. When he returned to her, she asked softly, "They want to send me back, don't they?" He did not answer right away. Instead, he knelt beside her. "Listen to me. I won't let them take you. Not while I'm breathing." Her eyes widened. She had expected betrayal, abandonment, the same cold rejection she had always known. But instead, she found fire in his words. Outside, the desert winds howled, and alien eyes watched from the horizon. The battle for her humanity had only begun. The desert night was colder than the girl expected. She sat on the edge of the cot, holding a small cup of warm water, staring at the dim light above. Her body was stronger now, but her heart carried the same weight. Every shadow reminded her of alien eyes. Every whisper outside the hut felt like judgment. The soldier entered quietly, his boots heavy against the metal floor. He placed a ration pack on the table. "Eat," he said simply. She looked up at him. "They won't stop, will they? The aliens, they'll come for me." He didn't answer right away. He unstrapped his armor and set his rifle down, then met her gaze. "Yes, they will." Her fingers tightened around the cup. A tremor ran through her. "And what will they do if they take me back?" The soldier's jaw hardened. He had heard the rumors too, stories of what aliens did to those who defied their rule. Exile was mercy. Return meant punishment. Finally, he said, "That's why you're not going back." For a moment, silence filled the room. Her breath caught, unsure if she could believe his promise. But deep in his voice was steel, a conviction she had never known from anyone else. The next morning, The outpost buzzed with tension. Word had spread. Alien envoys were already on their way, demanding the girl's return. Soldiers muttered in low voices, some worried, some angry. "She's not worth a war," one man said. "Why risk all of us for one exile?" another whispered. The soldier heard them, but he didn't argue. He knew fear had a voice, and it was loudest before danger arrived. Instead, he focused on preparing, checking weapons, scanning patrol routes, and watching the desert horizon. The girl watched too. Through a small window, she saw shapes moving in the far distance. Tall alien riders on beasts of stone and steel, banners rising against the wind. Her heart sank. She turned to the soldier. "Why are they so angry with me? I didn't break their laws. I only wanted to live as myself." He looked at her carefully. "Then tell me, why did they cast you out?" Her lips trembled. For a long time, she said nothing, afraid that even he would turn against her if he knew. But finally, the truth slipped out like a blade drawn in silence. "They asked me to kneel, to swear loyalty to their emperor, to give up my human name, my language, my blood. They wanted me to forget who I was. I refused." The soldier's eyes narrowed, not with anger at her, but with respect. He stood straighter, his voice low but firm. "You held onto your humanity. That's not weakness. That's strength." Her chest tightened. No one had ever spoken those words to her. She felt a spark, small but burning, deep inside. By nightfall, the alien envoys arrived. Their figures loomed tall, armored in silver and red. Their leader stepped forward, eyes glowing beneath a sharp crown. He spoke with a voice that carried across the camp. "You harbor one who does not belong. She is ours. Return her, or face the wrath of the Empire." The outpost commander hesitated. His men shifted nervously. The soldier, however, walked forward, placing himself between the girl and the envoy. His voice was calm but dangerous. "She is human. She belongs with us." The envoy's eyes narrowed. "She betrayed us. She refused to become one of us. She is a danger." The soldier's hand rested near his weapon, not yet drawing, but ready. "The only danger here is your pride." Gasps rippled through the soldiers. The aliens bristled, their weapons glowing faintly. For a tense moment, silence hung in the air like a blade about to fall. The envoy finally hissed, "You have made your choice. The Empire does not forgive." With that, they turned and vanished into the night, their shadows swallowed by the desert. But everyone knew they would return, not as envoys, but as hunters. That night, the girl sat with the soldier outside the hut. The stars stretched across the sky, bright and endless. She hugged her knees, her voice small. "You should have given me to them. Now they'll come for you too." The soldier shook his head. "If faced vers." And besides, he looked at her, his eyes steady. "You deserve a chance to live free. That's worth fighting for." Her chest ached, but not from fear. From something else. Something new. For the first time, she felt what it meant to be protected, not because of what she could give, but because of who she was. And yet, deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. The aliens would not stop. The storm was coming. But she was no longer the same broken exile who had collapsed in the sand. This time, she would not face it alone. The outpost slept uneasily after the envoy's warning. Soldiers whispered in corners. The commander paced his office, and every man feared what tomorrow would bring. The girl felt those fears pressing on her like chains. She had been a burden all her life, and now she was a danger to the very people who had given her shelter. Inside the dim hut, she sat curled on the cot, her hands gripping the blanket. The soldier was there, sitting across from her, cleaning his rifle with calm movements. The silence between them was heavy. Finally, she spoke. "You should let them take me. If I leave with them, your people will be safe." The soldier didn't even look up. "No." Her voice cracked. "You don't understand. They will destroy this place. They will kill you. I don't want anyone to die because of me." Now he raised his eyes, sharp and steady. "Listen carefully. You were cast out because you held on to who you are. That is not something to be ashamed of. That is something to protect. If I give you back to them, I am no soldier, no human. I'd just be another coward hiding from the truth." Tears stung her eyes. His words carried a weight she could not fight. Still, fear gnawed at her. Then what do we do? The soldier leaned closer, lowering his voice. We leave. Tonight. Her breath caught. Leave? Yes. Before the Empire returns with an army. Out there, he nodded toward the dark desert beyond the window. We have a chance. If we stay, we're trapped. The girl hesitated. The desert was endless, dangerous, unforgiving. But the thought of being dragged back by aliens filled her with even more terror. Slowly, she nodded. Then I'll go with you. When the moon rose high, they slipped out of the outpost. The soldier carried a pack with supplies, his rifle slung over his shoulder. The girl wore a borrowed jacket that was too big for her, but its weight made her feel safer. They moved quietly past the sleeping guards, past the vehicles, and into the open desert. The night air was cold, the stars sharp above them. Each step crunched softly in the sand. For hours, they walked without speaking, their shadows long beneath the silver light. At last, the girl broke the silence. Aren't you afraid? The soldier gave a small shrug. Fear keeps you alive, but I don't let it decide for me. She studied him in the pale glow. His face was calm, almost unreadable, but there was something in his eyes, something unshakable. It was not just duty, it was choice. By dawn, they reached the ruins of an old station half buried in the dunes. Broken towers jutted like bones, and the walls crumbled under the weight of time. The soldier led her inside, finding a small chamber still intact. We'll rest here, he said, dropping the pack. The girl sat down, exhaustion pulling at her limbs. She looked around at the cracked walls and rusted pipes. What was this place? Once, he said, it was a station built by humans when they first came to this world. They abandoned it long ago. A faint smile touched her lips. So even here, humans left a mark. He nodded. We always do. But peace did not last long. That afternoon, a distant hum echoed across the desert. The soldier climbed to the top of a broken tower, scanning the horizon through binoculars. His jaw tightened. 3 alien riders were approaching, their beasts kicking up trails of sand. Scouts. He hurried down. We've been found. The girl's chest tightened. What do we do? He checked his weapon, sliding a fresh magazine in place. We move. Before they call more. They left the ruins quickly, racing across the dunes. But the riders had already seen them. The sound of alien horns carried through the air, sharp and chilling. The soldier grabbed her hand. Run! Sand flew beneath their feet as the riders closed in, their voices echoing in a language she knew too well. Words of capture, of punishment. Fear clawed at her, but the soldier's grip kept her moving. His strength pulled her forward when her own legs wanted to give up. They scrambled down a slope into a canyon of red stone. The soldier shoved her behind a rock. Stay down. He raised his rifle, eyes sharp, and fired. The crack of bullets tore through the air. One rider fell, his beast collapsing into the sand. The others swerved, shouting. The girl pressed her hands to her ears, trembling. She had never seen such violence, never felt the thunder of human weapons so close. Yet through her fear, she saw something else. The soldier standing tall, unyielding, his humanity burning brighter than the sun's. When the dust cleared, the scouts were gone. One lay still, the others retreating into the desert. The soldier lowered his weapon, breathing hard. He turned to her. They'll be back. With more. She swallowed hard, her body shaking. Why do you keep risking yourself for me? He wiped the sweat from his brow, his eyes meeting hers. Because someone has to, and because you deserve more than exile. Her heart ached with a strange, fierce warmth. For the first time, she believed it might be true. But as the suns rose higher, painting the desert gold, she knew their journey was only beginning. The Empire would not stop. The storm was still coming. The suns climbed higher, their heat pressing down on the desert like fire. The girl and the soldier moved quickly through the narrow canyon, the echo of their footsteps following behind them. Neither spoke, but both knew the truth. The alien scouts would return, and next time they would not come alone. By midday, The two stopped beneath a ledge of stone. The soldier passed her a ration pack, though he took only a few bites for himself. She forced herself to eat, though her stomach twisted with nerves. Every sound in the distance made her tense. "They won't stop, will they?" she asked quietly. The soldier shook his head. "No, the Empire doesn't forgive. And they don't forget." Her chest tightened. "Then how can we survive?" His eyes met hers. "We don't run forever. We move smart. We make them bleed for every step." She shivered. His words were steady, but the weight of them frightened her. Still, deep inside, they also gave her strength. That night, they lit no fire. The desert was too quiet, the sky too full of stars that seemed to watch like eyes. The girl tried to rest, lying on the sand with the soldier's jacket wrapped around her. But sleep would not come. She turned to look at him, sitting upright, rifle across his knees, scanning the dark horizon. "You don't sleep?" she whispered. "Not when danger's close," he replied softly. Her throat tightened. "Why do you do this for me? You could have left me there, and no one would blame you." The soldier's face was calm in the moonlight. "Because you're human. That's enough for me. And because you remind me what we're fighting for." She turned away, blinking against the heat in her eyes. For the first time in her life, someone saw her not as a burden, not as an outcast, but as something worth fighting for. By dawn, the storm arrived, not of wind and sand, but of metal and fury. Alien ships broke across the horizon, their engines screaming, their shadows falling long across the desert floor. From the skies, troops descended, armored riders, hunters, soldiers carrying the banners of the Empire. The girl froze at the sight, terror rising in her throat. "They found us." The soldier grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the canyon wall. "Move, now." They scrambled across rocks, sliding into another passage. The sound of alien horns filled the air, echoing through the stone. Dust rained down as boots and hooves shook the ground above them. The soldier led her into a narrow tunnel, hidden in the canyon wall. Inside, it was dark, cool, the air smelling of earth and metal. They stumbled forward until they reached a chamber where broken machines lay rusting. The girl leaned against the wall, gasping for breath. "We can't fight them all." The soldier crouched, checking his weapon, his jaw tight. "We don't have to. We just have to survive." Hours passed as the aliens searched above, their voices echoing through the canyons. Sometimes the girl heard their words, calls to hunt, threats of punishment, promises of revenge. Each time, fear coiled in her chest. But each time, the soldier's steady presence kept her grounded. When the sounds grew distant, they moved again, following the tunnels deeper. The girl stumbled often, her body weak from exhaustion, but he never let her fall. His hand was always there, pulling her up, pushing her forward. At last, they emerged into a valley hidden between cliffs. Strange plants grew here, glowing faintly, their light painting the rocks in soft blue. Water trickled down the stone, forming a small pool. The girl's eyes widened. "It's beautiful." The soldier nodded. "And safe. For now." She knelt by the water, drinking deeply, letting the coolness wash away her fear. For a moment, she almost forgot the danger. Almost. That night, as they rested by the glowing plants, she spoke again. "I was always told humanity was weakness, that I would never be strong because of what I am. But your voice shook. You make me believe it's not true." The soldier looked at her, his expression unreadable, but his voice carried the same fire as always. "Humanity is not weakness. It's what lets us stand when everything else falls. Don't ever forget that." Her heart beat fast. She looked down, afraid he would see the warmth in her eyes. But the storm was not over. The next morning, they woke to the sound of engines. Alien patrols had found the valley. Shadows moved at the cliffs above. The soldier pulled her close, whispering, "Stay low. No matter what happens." He raised his rifle, the blue glow of the plants casting light on his face. The girl clutched his jacket, fear tearing through her, but also something stronger, hope. For the first time, she did not feel like a burden. She felt like she was part of something greater. The battle for her humanity was no longer just his fight. It was theirs. and together they would face the storm. The valley shook with the roar of alien engines. Dust rolled down from the cliffs as armored riders circled above, their glowing weapons aimed at the small pool of light below. The soldier stood ready, rifle in hand, his body tense but steady. Beside him, the girl crouched low, her heart racing, fear clawing at her chest. "They found us," she whispered. The soldier nodded without looking back. "Then we fight." The first wave came fast. Aliens dropped down the cliffs on cables, landing heavy on the stone floor. Their armor shone silver under the glow of the strange plants, their helmets hiding cruel eyes. One raised his spear, energy crackling at the tip. The soldier's rifle cracked first. A shot rang out, echoing through the valley, and the alien fell before his weapon could strike. The others charged, their voices sharp with rage. "Stay behind me," he shouted. But the girl couldn't just hide. Her body shook, but her mind raced. She grabbed a broken piece of metal pipe from the ground, clutching it like a staff. When an alien lunged too close, she swung with all her strength. The pipe struck his helmet, knocking him off balance long enough for the soldier's bullet to finish the fight. The soldier glanced at her quickly, surprise flickering in his eyes. She was terrified, but she was not useless. The battle raged on. More aliens stormed into the valley, their weapons blasting fire into the rock walls. Sparks rained, plants shattered, water hissed as energy bolts struck the pool. The soldier moved like a storm, rolling, firing, reloading, each shot precise. He fought with the skill of a man who had survived too many wars. But even he could not fight forever. The girl saw him stagger, his arm grazed by a blast. Pain flashed across his face, but he did not slow. She rushed to his side, pulling him behind a boulder as more fire rained down. "You're hurt," she cried. "Not enough to stop me," he growled, forcing a new magazine into his rifle. She pressed her hands to the wound, trying to slow the blood. For the first time, she realized how much she feared losing him. Not because he was her protector, but because he was the only one who had ever believed in her. More aliens dropped into the valley, their numbers growing. It seemed endless. The soldier fired again, but his ammo was running low. He cursed under his breath. "We can't win like this," the girl whispered. His jaw tightened. "Then we changed the fight." He pointed toward the cliffs. Strange plants grew thick along the rocks, glowing brighter where alien weapons had scorched them. The girl realized something. The plants released a faint gas when burned. She had seen it spark earlier when fire touched the vines. Her eyes widened. "The plants, they're flammable." The soldier followed her gaze. Understanding lit his face. "Good eyes." He handed her a small flare from his belt. "You light it. I'll cover you." Her hand shook as she held the flare. The aliens advanced, shouting, firing. The soldier rose from cover, his rifle barking with fire, forcing them back step by step. "Now," he yelled. The girl struck the flare, its light blazing red in her hands. She hurled it into the thick vines above. For a moment, silence. Then, the valley exploded in fire. Flames raced along the cliff walls, igniting the glowing plants in a chain of sparks. Heat washed over them, blinding light filling the canyon. Aliens screamed as fire consumed their cables, their armor glowing red before they fell. The valley roared like a furnace, turning the battlefield into chaos. The girl coughed from the smoke, shielding her face. The soldier grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the far end of the valley. Together, they ran through fire and dust, stumbling out into the desert as the canyon collapsed behind them. They fell to the sand, gasping, the night sky above now thick with smoke. The alien forces were broken, scattered, their hunt burned to ash. The girl turned to the soldier, her eyes wide, her chest heaving. We did it." He gave a short nod, his face still hard, but his eyes softened when they met hers. "You did it. You saw what I missed." Her heart leapt. For the first time, she felt more than a survivor. She had fought. She had chosen to stand. Tears blurred her vision, but this time they were not from fear. Maybe humanity isn't weakness after all. The soldier's voice was steady, but proud. It never was. As the flames died in the distance, silence returned to the desert. The stars watched overhead, bright and endless. The storm had passed, but they both knew more battles would come. The Empire would not forget this defeat. But something had changed. She was no longer just the girl who had been cast out. She was someone who had fought beside him, someone who had discovered her own strength. And together, they were ready for whatever came next. The desert was quiet again. Smoke from the burning canyon drifted into the sky, carried away by the night wind. The soldier and the girl sat on the sand, their breaths heavy, their bodies tired, but their spirits unbroken. They had survived. For a long while, neither spoke. The girl looked at the stars above, bright and endless. They had always seemed cold to her, far away, unreachable. But tonight, they felt closer, as if they were watching her, guiding her. At last, she whispered, I never thought I would live to see another sunrise. The soldier gave a short nod. You fought for it. That's why you're still here. Her chest tightened. She thought back to the day she was cast out, walking alone into the desert with nothing but shame and fear. Now she was here, alive, because she had refused to let go of who she was. And because he had refused to let go of her. By dawn, they began moving again. The suns rose slowly, painting the sky red and gold. Their journey was long, but ahead of them lay something new. The soldier had spoken of a human colony hidden beyond the desert, a place where her kind lived free. As they walked, the girl felt strength in her steps that she hadn't known before. Each mile was heavy, but her heart was lighter than it had ever been. Do you really think they'll accept me? She asked quietly. The soldier looked at her, his eyes steady. You're human. That's all that matters. The words warmed her like fire. Days later, the colony came into view. A city of metal and glass, built against the cliffs, its walls shining in the sun's light. Towers rose into the sky. Banners of blue and silver fluttered in the wind. Human voices carried across the desert. Laughter calls, the sounds of life. The girl stopped, staring in wonder. Her throat tightened, her eyes burning. It's real. The soldier smiled faintly. Yes, and it's yours now. At the gates, guards met them with raised weapons. Suspicion flickered in their eyes, but when the soldier explained, their stances softened. They saw her not as an intruder, not as an exile, but as one of their own. Inside, the colony was alive with movement, children running, merchants selling, engineers repairing machines. The girl turned slowly, her heart aching with something she had never felt before. Belonging. An older woman approached, her face lined with years, but her smile warm. She touched the girl's cheek gently. Welcome home, child. The girl broke into tears, falling into the woman's arms. For the first time in her life, she was not rejected, not mocked, not cast aside. She was accepted. She was human. That night, the colony celebrated their safe return. Fires burned in great circles. Food was shared. Songs rose into the sky. The girl sat near the flames, laughter around her, warmth on her skin. Yet her eyes often drifted to the soldier sitting quietly at the edge of the crowd, his rifle resting beside him, his gaze always on the horizon. She rose and walked to him. Why do you sit alone? He shrugged. Old habit. She smiled softly and sat beside him. Then maybe it's time to learn new ones. For the first time, she saw his expression soften fully, a hint of peace breaking through the soldier's hard shell. As the night grew quiet and the stars returned, she whispered, Thank you for saving me, for believing in me. He shook his head. You saved yourself. I only gave you the chance. Her heart swelled. She realized then that he had given her more than life. He had given her hope. She looked at the colony lights, glowing against the dark. Do you think the Empire will come again? The soldier's eyes narrowed, his hand resting on his rifle. Yes, but when they do, they'll find more than just one soldier and one girl. They'll find humanity. The girl smiled, her fear melting into resolve. For the first time, she believed in those words. Humanity was not weakness. Humanity was strength, kindness, fire, and hope. And now, she was part of it. The suns rose again, casting golden light over the colony walls. Children laughed in the streets, workers greeted the day, and high above, banners waved in the wind. The girl stood at the gates, looking out at the desert where her old life had ended. She was no longer the exile who had collapsed in the sand. She was something new. She was human, and she was home.